Not only is it considered to be one of the worst games ever made, but it's also considered to be one of the most mysterious. For years, very little was known about it. Its elusive creator, Kalwoon Kurosawa, has made numerous other works, all of a similar quality and style. Among these are a game that is worse than Hong Kong 97, and a short story that may be one of the most disturbing things ever put to paper. As physical copies of the game have finally been found, it's important to look at what it has to say to gain much needed context before analyzing the game. Right off the bat, you can see that a picture of Bruce Lee, a Chinese Communist army, and Deng Xiaoping was just slapped onto the cover. The text on the cover says that it's an invincible political action game calling for the people of Hong Kong to destroy the communist army. The game comes with a singular slip of paper which serves as the box art on the front, and the instructions along with some of the story is on the back of the slip of paper. The problem here is looking at the back leaves us with more questions than answers. The text at the top tells us that the main character, Chin, a relative of Bruce Lee, is tasked with killing the entire population of China. You have to avoid pellets in Mercedes-Benz cars. More on that later. Also, Chin is addicted to heroin. You can pick up heroin for a boost, which is presumably the temporary invincibility that you get sometimes. The question is, what are the other games it's advertising? Who are these women at the bottom right portion of the paper, and why are they even there? And is the address at the bottom where Happysoft headquarters is even located? The paper also tells you that there's like a touching ending to this game, which isn't true. I guess there technically is a touching ending, but we'll get to that later. The game was initially made for the Super Famicom, but many bootleg copies were sold in Hong Kong and Bangkok. Kurosawa printed several hundred copies of this game, but only 30 to 50 of them were sold. The game costed 2,000 to 2,500 yen, or $20 to $25. Physical copies of the game are so rare that it effectively became lost media. There are also two versions of this game. The original ROM that's online, and an alternate dump on Kurosawa's website. Here's an alleged alternate cover for the game, presumably from one of the bootlegs. As you can tell, this rabbit hole is only going to go deeper and deeper. So one of the main reasons why Hong Kong 97 became such a viral meme is because of all of the languages it was translated into. You can select the language of English, Chinese, and Japanese. Immediately being able to understand the game's insane bullshit definitely helped its chances. Happysoft were looking for games to publish, so they advertised it in their games and in elsewhere, like obscure and oftentimes underground magazines. They did manage to make another game, and no joke, it's about Shinrikyo. If it weren't obvious from the box art, Kurosawa is going to continue ripping images from movies and from other sources to use as assets for the game. For example, they used Jackie Chan in the movie Wheels on Meals to portray Chin. Kurosawa either used a poster like this one or the final fight in the movie where Jackie Chan was in this specific pose. Okay, so this isn't an exact match, but it's obvious that Kurosawa probably looked at this scene in particular and said, "Yup, that's the one. Let's choose this one." You can even tell that a magic wand tool or something akin to it, where you just click the background and get everything except the portion of the image that you want out and erased, was used to select the image. The jagged edges imply that it was done very lazily, likely with like a feathering tool of some kind, because you can't see the highlight in the original image. Like the highlights on the edges of Jackie Chan's arm are not there. The color palette is also very limited due to hardware limitations. That being, it was literally just photocopied from a movie. This photo is also seen on the cover of the game and is reused several times. The original exact match of the picture cannot easily be found online. It looks like it was taken in the middle of Deng Xiaoping talking. The main trend with the graphics in this game are that the images have an extremely limited color palette. We're talking like 3 or 4 colors and then white or black. Tinting almost implies other colors. So right off the bat, it tells us that we need to be aware of a herd of fucking ugly reds coming after Hong Kong. The game is clearly satirizing anti-Chinese sentiments of the time. It's no secret that the people of Hong Kong resented the Chinese government and still do. This game is just taking the more extreme anti-immigration segments of these feelings and is making a joke out of it. Is it in good taste? No. Is it still funny? I guess that's up for you to decide. Bear in mind that this is the same guy that made an encyclopedia on butt plugs. No, I'm not making this shit up. I wish I were. Not even a minute into the game and we see a pile of dead bodies. To be specific, it's from the Orduf concentration camp. Dead prisoners were thrown in a bin and doused with quicklime to be burned. The coloring is off and it's slightly different than any of the pictures I could find online. I'm going to blur this because it's probably too graphic to show. I find it ironic that Deng Xiaoping died in 1997. It's just enough time for it to feel uncomfortable. Plus the idea of him turning into a weapon is just funny. This will make sense when we learn why Kurosawa made the game.
I was shocked by this information, and I'm afraid about the stability of China.
I feel very sad because Deng Xiaoping's wish just can't get it. Because at this year he wants to come to Hong Kong to visit.
Right off the bat, you can tell how much effort was put into the game. The 3 sprites are basic splotches of color with minimal shading. Chin is wearing a white shirt and black pants, and is pretty gaunt for someone who is a killing machine. It's probably the hair one, to be honest. It's all uncanny in the way that something like the Game Boy camera was. The movement just isn't right. The animation is also extremely crude, with Chin only getting 7 frames of animation when he moves, and the enemy is getting a whopping 2 frames of animation while moving. There's a lot of warping, and not in a way that emphasizes movement. The backgrounds are either Chinese advertisements of Coca-Cola or cars or Chinese propaganda. Hong Kong 97's background music is also propaganda. It's a loop of the song I Love Beijing Tiananmen, which I'm not even gonna touch that, okay? Okay, so that happy ending that I mentioned. When you manage to kill 1.2 billion people in the game, the music will stop playing due to its hardware limitations. Every time 30 enemies are killed, and when 3 cars pass by, Deng Xiaoping as the ultimate weapon will appear as a floating head. It'd be easy if it didn't take only 1 shot to kill you. Sporadically you can get your heroin needles to get invincibility, but that doesn't really matter when it's so rare. When you kill someone, a poorly cropped explosion is shown, and the same body seen in the game over is shown briefly, albeit with a red, scuffed background. For years, Reddit had various theories on what the body's identity was. Some people thought it was a Polish boxer who had committed suicide. Other people thought it was a political prisoner who was murdered. The truth would later be revealed. The original image came from a Mondo film called Death File Yellow. The director of this movie is more well known for his BDSM smut, but he decided to dive his hands into gore. It was in a segment about the Bosnian War. This man's identity is still unknown and will likely never be known. Judging by the weird borders of the image and the TCR label on top of the screen, Kurosawa likely paused the movie, took a picture of the screen, and then scanned the picture. He might have taken the picture from an angle, considering that there's a slight amount of distortion. It is smushed horizontally. Believe it or not, Kurosawa actually had a pretty normal childhood. When he was 11, he would take out a loan to buy a computer after reading about it in a comic. He'd take on odd jobs throughout his teenage years to pay off that loan. He would run a BBS called the Isotranet, which, like other BBSs at the time, would often facilitate illegal activity. Particularly, he made a board on cute girls and trains and how to grope them. Unfortunately, sexual assault is common in Japan's subway system, hence why there's even an audience for any of this. By the time he was 19, he would travel to Hong Kong to buy a Commodore Amiga. This is where he first saw the Magicom, which was an attachment to put on the Super Famicom to run floppy disks. He likely also became accustomed to the socio-political situation in the area as well. In his adult life, Kurosawa would actually become a journalist. He wrote about bootleg games, and in time, he made a travel journal about Asia's underground. Here is a bombshell though. Hong Kong 97 isn't even the first game he made. He's actually made a whole lot of games before this actually. And the first one to gain a lot of attention was Gomon Master, or Torture Master. Kurosawa's corruption arc begins. He starts making games to pay off the loan he got for his computer. This is around the same time that he made the Creepshot Bulletin, by the way. The games are not well made and are just visual novels. Games like Restoration Game Center Arashi and Angel's Afternoon Tea already have his trademark features, that being horrible MS Paint drawings, little to no interaction, being straight up ass. But then, by some miracle of God, Gobound Master would be the first game Kurosawa made that went viral. As I said before, it's a visual novel. It's very basic in its presentation. It's kinda ass, not gonna lie. The common themes Kurosawa would latch onto are on display here. Mainly the racism, mainly the political violence. Your character gets tortured by what looks like an Islamic terror group, which, considering this was made in the 90s, how timely, guys. I guess this is another one of his political action games. The rabbit hole goes even deeper. This is an advertisement for Goemon Master, and as you can see, it uses the same tricks that Hong Kong 97 used, stealing pictures and pasting them onto the product. This time he used Total Recall. There was only one video of gameplay, and no files of the game were available online. It was effectively lost media, but today there's a copy of the game on archive.org. All of this being said, it's probably worth it to give a general look at the other games that he made that are archived. Of course, this isn't the whole thing, and it's not all of the games that he made, but we'll get to that later. The website that I found these games on seems to be one of the only places online that these games are available. I haven't found much coverage in terms of videos, or even just like Reddit posts. The most that I found was a Twitter thread.
This work was created using the calligraph animation tool of ASCII's login software. I won't reveal who made it, but I remember being quite shocked at the time. And several years later, I found out that the creator of the software was a certain friend of Kurosawa's and felt a strange connection. I didn't actually get permission from him, but I'm sure he would also like to forget that he made it, so I'll go ahead and post it. It's 18 plus, right? This is a work by Mr. Kurosawa, a pioneer of Doujin software. It features a light and speedy performance by many great people from around the world, making it a fun and lovable piece of software. Once you play it, the famous line, "Itoshima Spi," will be burned into your head and you won't be able to get it out. This is a work by Kamadamiya Soft, which has a dark history in the world of PC-88 Doujin software. It was created by Mr. Kurosawa, who currently runs a video rental store in a certain country under the scorching sun. But you can see that even back then, he was calmly watching the dangerous politicians of the world and even casually predicted the Middle East war, so it's a terrifying piece of software. By the way, it doesn't matter, but this software is the only one that uses the sound driver I created.
You know, throughout all of this, I've failed to explain why Mr. Kurosawa made Hong Kong 97, and the reason why he did is even more batshit insane than all the other stuff that I've covered. Kurosawa, when he traveled to Hong Kong as a vacation, he decided to buy some computer parts, as Hong Kong was the chip capital of the world at the time. Among the things that he sees is a stock of Super Magicoms, which are illegal modifiers for the SNES. He decides to buy them and sell them in the black market in Japan. This decision will have consequences. He tries to sell them in Japan, but Nintendo stops him because it infringes on their licenses.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence.
In response, he decides he is going to make the worst game possible and try to get it licensed by Nintendo. One that is in such poor taste, so poorly designed, that it will never sell. He was trying to protest against the way Nintendo published its games. He gets someone from Square Enix, which, I mean, how? Literally how? And he gives them a week to make the game, and then he shits it out on the black market. The rest is history. After the game was finished, Kurosawa would use the Magicoms he bought to put the game on a floppy disk. He would advertise the game on this magazine, Game Urara, which is infamous for its not safe for work content, as well as just being a hub for drug dealing, piracy, hacking, and just other criminal activity. Kurosawa sold the game through a mail-in service, and it was possible to buy the game for decades. It would often be referred to as a pseudonym, hence it being called a political action game. He'd publish it through the company HappySoft, which that company is just a whole other rabbit hole entirely. After he made the game, he would go back to writing about bootleg games. In time, he even forgot that he made the game entirely. However, the internet did not forget. By the late 2000s, Hong Kong 97 gained a lot of attention. The man's Facebook would be bombarded with people asking him how the game was made and if he still has a copy of the game. He would later do an interview on the issue, and he asked these people to stop bugging him about it. Miniskirt Police is probably the most polished of any game Kurosawa has ever had any involvement with. It's still a bad game, but hey, it's a finished product, I guess. Look, finished is a strong word for Kurosawa, okay?
後ろから忍び寄っていきなりの急所蹴り
This game was made in 2005 by a total of 6 people, including Kurosawa and the friend that helped him make Hong Kong 97. As you can see, the game involves a girl cop in skimpy clothing fighting gangsters and crude BDSM monsters. The game is part of a series, and one of the main reasons why it's such ass is that the controlling is bad and your character is very weak. But we all know the reason why your character is weak, and the controlling is bad. Kurosawa and the boys had a cum brain making this shit.
Oh god, I'm gonna kill him!
And because Kurosawa couldn't help himself, the game is set in Hong Kong, and you are tasked with dealing with the filthy criminals in Hong Kong. I wonder where these criminals may have come from. The series that the Miniskirt Police came from is known as Simple 2000. It's volume 88. Kurosawa would later move to Thailand, continuing his work as a journalist. In particular, he continued documenting Asia's underground, and we are about to get right into that. After moving to Cambodia, Kurosawa would focus more on making travel journals. However, there are things that he had a hand in making that are especially heinous. The last thing that we'll be talking about in this section is so bad that I'll just warn you not to watch it in case you can't handle things like CSA. It gets bad even for this channel. Kurosawa made a game where you're a North Korean kidnapping Japanese people and taking them to North Korea. He deleted it before publishing because he felt it went way too far. Unfortunately, this is actually a common practice in North Korea, with individuals like Megumi Yokota, Yaokoi Taguchi, and countless other people being inducted into the country. Most would never return to their home soil. There isn't much to be said here, as we don't know anything about the game other than word of mouth. It might as well have never even existed. In 1996, Mr. Kurosawa made Life Shortens, likely with the same tools as before. Life Shortens is a bootleg SNES game, in the sense that you can put it in an SNES and it'll run. It's not really a game. Either way, I can't show this game to you, as it's as bad as the shock sites of the early internet. I can explain it though. The game starts with a red screen that says Life Shortens, Computer Graphics Collection by Mr. Chin, and then it just shows gore and unpleasant imagery. The issue here is that there is little to no other information than just a Screamer wiki page, or a couple of tweets gawking at it. It's definitely an enigma. So Kurosawa didn't have any part in this game, but the company that he helped popularize, Happysoft, did publish it in 1995. It's about Shinrikyo leading up to its infamous sarin gas attack, which killed dozens and injured thousands. Shinrikyo was a cult that began to have massive amounts of political power in Japan at that time. It was also a doomsday cult that thought that the US was going to start World War III. A lot of people who spoke out against the cult were killed, and the demonstrations that the cult did, like being submerged in water without breathing for long periods of time, actually killed some of its members. The game uses real footage from the cult and the event. As such, it's extremely disturbing. Of course, the ending is also pretty disturbing, considering that it's just a nuclear war. It's actually a misconception that this game was made by the cult itself as propaganda. It's actually satirizing the cult. Mr. Kurosawa exposed a child sex trafficking ring in Cambodia. He talks about how there is a community of pedophiles who go to certain areas in Southeast Asia to have young sex. Rich white men and rich Chinese men often go there to satisfy their sick urges. They go to these massage parlors and ask for little girls. Traditionally, northern Thailand and the Philippines were the ideal spot for these individuals, but this had changed to Phnom Penh. This would become apparent to all of Japan when a Mr. Tamamoto would move there, and throughout his life, he allegedly kept a harem of 50 little girls as sex slaves. As a result of his infamy, many Japanese pedophiles would flock to the area. Kurosawa would dub him the white supremacist king of Lolicon. Kurosawa would interview one of these pedophiles, a Mr. Sugimura. Sugimura was a pedophile with a wife. For some reason, she knew about his pedophilia and was okay with it. She would even help satisfy his urges, taking suggestive pictures of children. This would be a regular thing in his house. She, for some reason, wanted a daughter. Sugimura tells her that if they had a daughter, he is pretty sure he would just rape her. So, they made an agreement of sorts. He gets to go to Cambodia to get it out of his system, and then he'll return and have a kid with her. At the time, 10 to 12-year-olds from Vietnam were easily trafficked to the area. Human rights activists in the area would protest this. Sugimura then spends $1,000 on a 12-year-old virgin, and then has his way with her. To his fury, he finds out she isn't a virgin. Unfortunately, this is a common practice among these brothels, so that they could earn a bigger profit. I have no words for how disgusted I am after talking about this. All I have to say is, may the girls whose lives were ruined by this atrocity find peace. Kawabun Kurosawa is a shock artist and a damn good one. I say this as a 100% genuine compliment when I say that no one else could have made Hong Kong 97. As much of a morally ambiguous person as he is, you cannot deny he is good at shocking people. The reason why I say all of this is because someone else already tried. Taiwan 2001 was another attempt at Hong Kong 97, and it flopped so hard it became lost media. The reason why is that it just wasn't anywhere near as shocking as what was before. But is it even worth it? At what point does shocking someone being controversial, at what point do those things just go too far into just depravity and just mean-spiritedness?